playing in the ISA schoolboy football competitions.
Will you score this for Casey? Will you score? It's a shot, it's a goal!
And it's a shot, and it's a goal! And Casey has won the Manning Cup, and they will play Clarendon College in the Olivia Shield. And that's what you love to see. They may be rivals, but the camaraderie is what it's all about. Can't wait for the final.
When the bus the man, I want to watch my son play finals for CVM, you know.
But mums, you can't watch it on CVM website, man.
Come on, my son score, my son score, my son score, my son score.
Greatness begins here.
Need to estimate your duty? Perform a track and trace? Search for a declaration?
Then download the Jamaica Customs mobile app today. The time by the Jamaica Customs Agency is
12 p.m.
Thanks for joining us for CVM News at Noon for this Wednesday, December 17, 2025. I'm Amoy Harriet. Up first this afternoon, Member of Parliament for Portland Eastern and Opposition spokesperson on Youth and Human Rights, Isaac Buchanan, has condemned the alleged rape of a female student at the College of Agriculture, Science and Education case, calling for urgent action to improve student safety and support.
This incident has understandably caused fear, anger, and distress among students and the wider academic community. Sexual violence represents a serious violation of human rights and must be met with decisive, transparent, and compassionate action. As opposition spokesperson on youth and human rights, I'm formally calling on the Jamaica Constabulary Force to provide timely and appropriate updates on the status of the investigation.
Detectives attached to the Sosoka branch in Lucy, Hanover have arrested and charged 23-year-old Rodney Brown, otherwise called Price, of Lances Bay community in Hanover with rape. Reports are that on Thursday, December 4, Brown transported a 17-year-old girl in his motorcar to visit a family member who was living on the outskirts of Lucy. He reportedly informed the teenage girl that he was making a turnoff in the vicinity of Watson Taylor Park to collect an item from someone. Now, on reaching the area, it's alleged that Brown parked the car at an isolated location and immediately started to make sexual advances at the girl. According to police, the teenager made several attempts to push away the accused, who allegedly sexually assaulted her. Now, she later reported the matter to one of her family members, who then alerted the police. Now, following an investigation, Brown was taken into custody and subsequently charged. Meanwhile, a Westmoreland farmer was shot and killed at his home in the Pisgah district on Monday. The victim has been identified as 30-year-old Jovan Graham. Police say shortly before 6 a.m., residents alerted them after hearing several gunshots coming from the direction of Graham's home. When officers arrived, he was found lying in a pool of blood and what appeared to be gunshot wounds. He was later pronounced dead. Now, detectives told CVM News that a week earlier, Graham was allegedly shot at by two farmers from the community following a dispute involving his goats. The accused, 27-year-old Rivaldo Richards, otherwise called Jomi, and LeVar Brissett, otherwise called Levy, were arrested and charged with shooting with intent, possession of a prohibited weapon, unauthorized possession of ammunition, and using a firearm to commit a felony. Both men remain in police custody and investigations are ongoing. The police, or Lucy Police in Hanover, have launched a manhunt for a man known as Satan, who hails from Elgin Town in the parish. Satan was named as a person of interest in last Saturday's murder of 31-year-old Tajay Watson of Haunton Gardens, who was gunned down in broad daylight in Lucy. Reports are that on Monday afternoon, a team of officers went to Elgin Town in search of the suspect. Detectives told CVM News that on reaching the community, the man was seen standing in a plane. It's alleged that he opened fire at the police and ran. The lawmen say they gave chase and returned fire, but the suspect managed to evade capture. One investigator told CVM News that they have reason to believe that the suspect was shot and injured during the exchange. Now, Satan is one of two men identified to have opened fire at Watson sometime after 11 a.m. on Saturday. Investigators theorize that Watson's death may have stemmed from a conflict between him and other men from the Elgin Town community who were employed as a part of a cleanup team to remove debris left behind by Melissa. Now, up to his death, it's understood that Watson was never paid. The police are asking anyone with information that can assist in locating or in the capture of Satan to immediately contact them. Detectives assigned to the St. Andrew North Criminal Investigation Branch arrested a justice of the peace following a sting operation Tuesday on Constant Spring Road in Kingston. The arrest came after the suspect was observed operating from a vehicle and soliciting payments for signing and verifying documents. Marked notes which were solicited by the suspect were recovered at the time of his arrest.
The GSAF strongly condemns this action. The role of a JP is one of public trust and integrity, services for which they must not charge the public. When JP verify documents for cash instead of verifying identity and trustfulness, it creates a serious vulnerability for fraud, identity theft, and other crimes, which directly undermine national security and our institutions. The public is urged to report any JP demanding payment for services to the police or the Customs Office.
Meanwhile, the Harborview police have arrested and charged 18-year-old Kevon Kwalo, a customer service representative, with larceny of a motor vehicle following an incident on Stella Road, Kingston on Saturday, October 13. Tasked with repairing and safekeeping a motorcycle, the complainant discovered it was missing when he woke up the following day. CCTV footage was reviewed and Kwalo was identified, arrested and subsequently charged. Two men are in custody and two illegal firearms, including a high-powered assault rifle, have been seized following the murder of a man in Willersfield, Golden Grove, St. Thomas on Saturday. The deceased is 53-year-old Michael Small, also known as Anil or Biggs, a truck driver of Orangefield, Linstead in St. Catherine. Reports say that about 6:20 p.m., Small was at a business establishment when he was shot multiple times by an armed man. He was taken to hospital where he was pronounced dead. Police launched an immediate operation, intensifying patrols and setting up cordons across the parish. Now, around midnight on Sunday, officers intercepted two men on separate motorcycles along the Martha River Back Road. A search led to the seizure of a multi-caliber assault rifle with a makeshift suppressor loaded with 14 live rounds and a revolver containing 6 live rounds. Additional ammunition was also recovered. Now, both men remain in custody as investigations continue. To other news now, 6 weeks after Hurricane Melissa battered Western Jamaica, a greenhouse farmer in St. Elizabeth is going back to the drawing board after the Category 5 hurricane destroyed his investment and wiped out everything.
This greenhouse was no match for Melissa. So what this has, the past almost 30 years of my life has culminated to is a twisted pile of metal and plastic right here. You know, this represents, like I said, the past 30 years and about $300,000 in investment.
But with a greenhouse of this nature, isn't there insurance to assist with recovery?
No, circa 2004 when we got into the business, we were looking for crop insurance then, and we spoke to a lot of commercial banks and institutions, insurance institutions who would provide insurance, and we couldn't get insurance. I didn't even know crop insurance exists until sometime after the hurricane. I was on social media and I saw that the Grace Kennedy Bank were doing some payout to some local farmers, but we weren't aware that we could have gotten crop insurance. We didn't even know it existed, to be honest with you.
He shared an estimated value to the total loss.
Well, like I said, this represents $300,000 of investment with the structures and the growing systems. And that does not include the $11 million worth of crop loss.
as Jamaica continues its rebuilding efforts. What's next for Hydro Gardens of Jamaica?
What we'll try and do is see how best we can pick up the pieces. Prior to the hurricane, we were in construction mode. We were in expansion mode, really. So we have a structure that wasn't affected by the hurricane, except we were depending on revenues from these two crops to fund our expansion. So now we don't have a crop and we don't have any greenhouses. These traditional greenhouses, yes, they've served us well, but with this ever-changing climate condition and fiercer storms, I don't think we can afford to build traditional greenhouses. I think we have to look at something more sustainable.
Mr. Singh described this as a loss of investment, a loss of employment, and a loss of livelihood. And for him, rebuilding, restructuring is very faint, but he still has hope. I'm Omar Wilson for CVM News.
And it's time for a break, but stay with us. Our live interview comes up next.
And get creative with your floors, walls, and all the spaces in between. Our knowledgeable sales consultants are happy to help create your beautiful finish with the latest designs in first quality porcelain, wood look, vinyl, mosaics, natural stones, and countertops. At Creative, you will get every tile you need for your residential or commercial projects. Creative Building Finishes, your one-stop shop for everything tiles. Visit our showroom at 5 Red Hills Road or call 876-929-5553. Get tiles, get creative.
It's the Chris and Charles Merry Money Mania loan promotion. This Christmas, borrow big and win bigger. Get $1.5 million or $2 million in loans at special reduced rates, plus a chance to win your share of $1 million. And new customers get double entries. The promotion runs from October 15 and is now extended to January 30, 2026. Visit any Chris and Charles branch or chrisandcharles.com for details. Chris and Charles, making life merry again. Conditions apply. Authorized under Section 58.3 of the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Act.
Where it all begins. The quest to become great. Inspired by those who went before them, these four boys dream of playing in the ISA schoolboy football competitions.
Will you score this for Casey? Will you score? It's a shot, it's a goal!
And it's a shot, and it's a goal! And Casey has won the Manning Cup, and they will play Clarendon College in the Olivia Shield.
Welcome back to CVM News at noon. The tourism sector has been declared 71% readiness to accommodate arrivals at the winter tourist season. Now, that's according to Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett. Now, he describes this as a V-shaped recovery. As he says, in the past 5 weeks, more than 300,000 tourists have entered Jamaica, which Minister Bartlett says demonstrates that the sector is poised for a rapid recovery from the hurricane. Here to discuss these recovery of the tourism industry and everything that's associated with this recovery is Executive Director of the Tourism Enhancement Fund, Dr. Kerry Wallace. Welcome, Dr. Wallace.
Thank you, and great to be here, and good afternoon to the viewers as well.
What would you say is a comprehensive assessment of the amount of tourism workers who were actually affected by Melissa? What does that look like?
Well, the tourism employs almost a third of the working population of Jamaica, and the ground zero for the impact of Melissa was really along the west coast, covering several resort towns, including the south coast with Treasure Beach and that area, going through to Negril, through to Montego Bay, to Trelawney and St. Anne. So quite a lot were significantly affected. Thankfully, some were not as bad as others. Kingston, obviously, as a resort area, was spared considerably, and the East, Portland, and so on. But St. Anne and Negril were able to get back up relatively quickly, and then Montego Bay had a lot of effort, and they're back up as well too. So with a lot of work by so many stakeholders, the overseas relief that came in, as well as our variety of agencies and public and private sector, JPS, NWC, putting in overnight works in the areas, we're able to get, in a lot of cases, get things back up to the point where we can have our tourism plans or hotels and attractions being able to accommodate visitors again.
So the 5,000 person allocation, can you briefly tell me what exactly it is, as well as what's the criteria that's being used to select beneficiaries?
So you are referring to the THAR program that the minister announced yesterday,
right.
The Tourism Housing Assistance and Recovery Program. And so what we're doing is we're kind of transitioning from rescue and relief to where we're doing recovery. And recovery means that we have to get roofs back on the houses of our tourism workers. We have to, some of them who have lost entire houses, we have to get those replaced. And so that program raises capital from a variety of sources, including the TEF. We've provided 70 million for building kits that are valued at 100,000 each, that we have partnered with hardware suppliers to ensure that these building kits get to tourism workers at hardware stores close to them in their communities, so that the cost of transportation is fairly nominal, and they get that relief fast. So we have 3 different types of kits depending on the need of that tourism worker. If it's whether it's more cement and concrete repairs versus whether it's zinc and ply and 2x4s and so on. So we have 3 different kits, rebuilding kits. And so if you go onto our website, tef.gov.jm, you can see the actual application form and more details on that program and how, as a tourism worker, you can apply for that that recovery support from us. But after that, we have both public and private sector contributions towards the recovery of tourism workers, and many of the hotels. In fact, at the presentation yesterday, we had quite a few of the tourism stakeholders, hotel owners, and so on, who outlined the program that they had in directly facilitating the recovery of their workers, and not just their workers, but in the communities where their workers are. It was able to extend to assist persons who had lost their roofs and were in dire need. So a lot of heartwarming stories and programs to assist the tourism workers, and I think it really demonstrates how we look at tourism as a family activity, because so much of what the visitor raves about is not just the waterfalls and beaches and so on, but it's actually our people. And so they are a crucial part of this product that we called tourism. And so it's crucial that we make sure that they are returned to normalcy, as well as building out back the infrastructure that was damaged by the hurricane.
What about those tourism workers who may not qualify for the 5,000 person allocation, but they're still displaced or unemployed? Is there any sort of support being put in place by TEF for those persons?
Well, the criteria we've used is the same criteria that was set up for the tourism pension scheme, and that is quite wide and capturing of the variety of tourism workers, whether they're employed formally to a hotel, or whether they're a craft vendor, or whether they're a driver. There's, tourism is one of those industries that just has so many moving parts, so many different persons and subsectors have to come together to make it work smoothly and seamlessly. And so we have to recognize that all of them are important in our recovery, because you can't have some recovered and others not, because they're the one gear missing from the suite of gears that make the wheels of tourism turn. So it's important for us to be able to capture all of them, and so we use that pension formula rather than having to recreate the wheel. We just use that pension formula as a criteria for tourism workers to apply.
So Dr. Wallace, speaking of tourism workers, we've seen recently where there were a few workers demonstrating their conditions of employment, particularly in St. James earlier this week, on Monday to be particular. Would you say the unrest in the sector is being addressed?
Of course. I mean, we are fortunately moving to a level where we have very, very low unemployment rates. And what that does is that it puts the handle in the hands of the employee more than in the employer. 20 years ago or 30 years ago, when they could hire and fire at will, nowadays they have to think twice